Hey folks, today I'm going to talk to you about being an ethical entrepreneur. A lot of intersectional folks have a really difficult time with the concept of business because they feel like charging people, especially their community that they love and care about, something for their service feels like, especially when it's the thing that's easy for you. A lot of intersectional folks survive by bartering and supporting each other and helping each other. So if one person learns something, they take it back to the whole community, right? So the idea that you could own your own business and charge a good amount of money for something that comes easy to you feels like you're exploiting people, right? And so I want to break this down a little bit because I think it's a big roadblock for a lot of intersectional folks in terms of creating their own businesses. So there's a couple of concepts like, trading time for money, right? So that's like having a professional fee. So you might make $30 an hour somewhere, or you might make $150 an hour trading time for money, depending on what your service is. And a lot of people, get either a degree or a certificate in order to charge a certain rate. That's usually, you look around and see the comps around and go, okay, similar people are charging similar things, so I'll do this. And then there's the concept of charging for value, right? So, like, it's not just the time that you're providing somebody, but it's um, potentially a product that you've made from your expertise or a problem you solve that's really valuable. And so you charge for what you know that's going to um, solve for that person. For example, like if you have a business that's helping people um, save time, then that time is valuable, and you can't necessarily measure like X amount of time, but you could do it that way, right? You could say, okay, I know I'm going to save you X amount of time, and that's going to be worth X amount of dollars to you. But let's say you help businesses 2X their revenue. Well, that's a pretty valuable service. So you don't want to just charge them the 3 hours that you might have met with them. You want to charge them the value that that's going to provide for them over time, because it's going to keep giving like an asset, not just a liability, like a cost for service. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But I created this little cartoonish anime type thing just to sort of illustrate the point. So bear with me if you think it's a little hokey. It's all good. Okay, so the first concept I'm going to talk to you about, this like triangle basically of how to keep your prices and your services ethical. So the first concept is the profit protector, right? This is the one who guards the revenue and profits by ensuring that your time, labor, and value are priced adequately. If you fail your task here, the business withers and dies. So this person needs to be strong about like, hey, I'm offering something valuable. It's costing me a certain amount to provide it. I'm offering something valuable for you. And so that's, you got to put some respect on my check for that, right? We don't seem to have a problem with that as intersectional people, like understanding the concept of respect on our check, but we tend to think of it like, I think what gets in the way is that a lot of intersectional folks, if they're at a job and an employer is providing a paycheck, they're the man or whatever, right? And so like you can, in that arena, I think people feel better saying, you better put some respect on my check. But when you're the employer, when you're the boss, it's a harder concept to get around, because we have to unpack the internalized oppression around a boss is evil and the employee is virtuous, right? Like, yes, there are greedy people who can exploit their power, but when you're in the role of power, we have to dismantle the idea, or tease apart the idea that just because you're charging something does not mean you're an exploiter, right? You can also charge something that is of value and respects your time and labor and offerings. And your gifts, even though they're easy to you and it might seem like no big deal, is something that is valuable to someone else, and what you offer might be really hard for them, even though it's easy for you. That's kind of how humans have evolved. Our brain structures have wired around being in tribes or clans of people of like 200 to 300 people, and we have natural diversity so that we support the survival of the whole, right? So some people are warriors and some people are healers, and we need each other, right? So just because it's easy to you doesn't mean it's not valuable to someone else. Okay. The next part is the cost caregiver. So this is the one who understands the investment for the customer or the client. So you want the product to be just enough to maybe stretch them so that they pay attention, right? Because people pay attention to what they pay for, but you don't want to stress the client. And so your task is to charge fairly. And if you fail that task, then you won't be able to have client flow because no one will buy your product, right? Like you have to understand your particular ideal client, where they're at in their money journey, because if someone's making $30 an hour, the amount of disposable income they have is different than if they're making $200 an hour or $500 an hour, right? So you have to look at the product that you're making and who you're making it for and adjust for that. That doesn't mean that it has to cost you, but it may mean that you have to adjust your delivery model so that, you offer something maybe at bigger scale so it's less cost per person, but you're still making the money that you need, right? But you want to, and to me, this is where I think, because my background is as a psychotherapist, and I think, as my journey into the coaching world, I think there's a lot of benefits to it. I love the coaching world for the fact that it focuses on skills and overcoming obstacles and sort of forward motion. But one thing that I think is the shadow part of the coaching world is that it's unregulated. And so there's no cap on sort of what people charge. And so a lot of the high ticket coaches out there are charging enormous amounts of money. And not to say that it's not, like, I get where they're coming from, that they're doing it from a place of I'm offering a lot of value. But I think I think what happens is when people get so big and have so much money that sometimes they forget who their audience is, and like who can afford what, and where the access point is for that person. And I think, the therapist part in me is trained to protect my client even from me. And so I have an internal barrier here around like not wanting to charge something so extravagant that people feel like they are going broke for my product, for example, right? So like, I think that's where my therapeutic lens kind of informs my coaching lens around making sure that there's a good price point for the client so that they're not like losing their homes affording your service, for example. Okay, so that's the cost caregiver. And then the third part of this triangle is the savvy sage. So this is the one who understands the business and the client are interconnected and advises the protector and the caregiver, right? So it's balancing those needs out and looking at the sustainability. So your task in this phase is to charge sustainably, because you see the flywheel. The more as you charge, people afford, people have value. You get informed by your product and how the clients are responding, and you're constantly adjusting to the market and the landscape and what's happening. For example, like when the COVID pandemic happened and people lost a lot of jobs, the businesses I think that thrived were not the ones price gouging, right? Because that loses a lot of trust for the client. But it's the one that says, you know what, profits aside, like, we love our community and here's what we're doing to support them. It doesn't mean give away everything for free, but it might mean, hey, right now I understand that people are scared, and so we're gonna sort of take the long relationship approach and sort of offer things that might be sustainable, but are not about taking advantage of the crisis, right? But they're still caring about the client. So that's kind of how I see how to stay ethical, or how to stay out of exploitation, where you care more about your money than the client, and how you stay out of getting robbed basically by your own lack of boundaries because you're not charging enough to be sustainable, or to have the vision that you have for your life. There's nothing wrong with wanting money or wanting uh, even luxury or whatever it is, as long as, in my opinion, if you're trying to be ethical, as long as you're not completely taking advantage of people. But I think most intersectional folks are so skewed on the side of not wanting to take advantage of people because they don't want to be the oppressor, that they don't charge enough for themselves. So there's a balance there. And I think looking at these three concepts kind of, I hope, will help you find the balance that's right for you and your business and your ideal client. Thanks for listening.